infancy and those early stages at the primary, elementary level, and then how that grows to the middle school, high school level, and into college, career, and beyond. And so before we start, we just kind of wanted to poll the audience, and there's just a few of you here. Show of hands if you're from the business sector. Hands up. Okay. Nonprofit. All right. Any educators? Educators. Oh, I think we have the whole room covered. I don't have to say any other. I did that in the last one. I thought, wait a minute, I think I saw every hand. So, well, we're glad that you're here today, and we hope that there's something in the presentation for each one of you to take away. My job in this presentation is to set the stage for Tim. He has all the fun and cool stuff that you're going to want to see and hear. And I kind of teased him the last time because, I had to, like I mentioned, put together a few slides to kind of ground us in our thinking. And then he put all the fun things with kids talking, and I said, you got the kids to do all your work again. But really, that's what this is. It's about getting the students involved at such a level that they're doing the work, they're the ones out in front, and we become that guide on the side. So I'll let Tim introduce himself briefly, but I'm going to hold on to the clicker so I can get through my slides.
My name is Tim Baird. You saw me introduced earlier, so I won't do a lot here. One of my current jobs is I am the Director of Educational Partnerships with the Green Schools National Network, sort of a passion project I'm doing. I am also the retired superintendent from Encinitas Union School District.
And my previous boss. And you heard a little bit about myself and my district through the soup tank, so I'm not going to take the time here to reiterate that. But just to talk a little bit about what our vision is. Oh, did you want to see that? I can go back, I think. Hold on. That one or that one? Okay. Okay, no problem. Our vision in the National School District, when you think about tools, whenever you're looking at teaching, you always want to make sure that you have that powerful, compelling vision, that mission statement that keeps everybody on course, moving in the same direction. The same is true for businesses. Same is true for nonprofits. Same is true for educators. And my goal is always that every one of my educators, every one of my parents, every one of my students knows our vision. And our vision in the National School District is exceptionally prepared learners, including adults, innovative and compassionate world citizens. And then the work becomes, how do we bring this to life? How do we do the work to become a compassionate world citizen? What does that even mean? So one of the things that we've done is we have centered a lot of our work around the United Nations global goals. And these were introduced in 2015 with a goal of achieving them by the year 2030. I think that when we talk today and you see the videos that Tim's going to show you and some of the examples, you're going to see a lot of the connections between the goals we're trying to achieve as a society for the world and the work we're doing with CTE. So I'm going to show a little video, just kind of if you're not as familiar or you haven't looked at these goals in a while, so you can kind of remind yourself. But while you're watching this, with your CTE expertise, be thinking about how CTE aligns with these global goals.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere
lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
Wakes in the morning.
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone goes to school.
And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
and be powerful and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is contact.
We will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
and proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
A new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure, and our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
Inside our countries,
And between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back.
the threat of climate change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas. We'll restore
and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
animals, the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together
Partnerships of all kinds.
to make these global goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Pretty powerful stuff, right? When we look at those 15 industry sectors, can you see the connection between what we're trying to achieve with CTE and something as simple as becoming a world citizen and working on the global goals? So we're going to give you just a minute to think about something that you've been involved in, either a project, something that you're thinking about launching in terms of CTE, and where it might fit in with one of these global goals. And when you have that idea, turn and talk to the person sitting next to you. We're just going to do it for about a minute or two, minute each, just to share an idea, kind of get our thoughts going. And then we're going to share some examples of things that we've been involved in with this.
Sorry to see that happen. We took our kids here all the time.
I was going to try to go.
Okay, that's in your neck of the woods, too.
I was going to do one of my retreats there.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to start, make sure you've switched people. One more minute. Make sure you switched. Okay, and we'll come back together. I know it's such a short amount of time. Tim tried to discourage me from letting any talk happen at all, but I know we need to, because when you watch something, you start to immediately make those connections. And that's really what this is about, making connections between those business sectors of CTE, the global goals, and those pathways that we set students on the path for. So when we look at no poverty and building sustainable cities and communities, we're really looking at that business and finance sector of CTE. Right? When we look at recreation and tourism, again, it goes back to building those sustainable communities. So we're going to break down a couple of these sectors, and then I'm going to show you a few pictures of what we're doing in national. And again, Tim's going to drive it home with some videos hearing directly from kids doing this work at that level. So let's take a look at the energy, environment, and utilities sector. There are 3 pathways that students can be involved in to achieve the skills or to learn the skills for this particular gainful employment. So I'm going to look specifically in national at the environmental resources pathways. You probably saw a lot of that in the videos for the global goals. So one of the easy entry points is really talking about recycling, looking at global goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. And if we know anything about this generation of children, they are very responsible, and they care deeply about preserving the world for their future, right? And so we decided to work with a company called BCK to offer internships to our students to learn about recycling. We bagged up our trash, we counted how much trash we had, and then we set some goals to reduce trash on campus. One of the biggest places where we were generating trash was, guess where? That's right, cafeteria and at lunch. And so the first thing they found is we were throwing away, in our little school district of 10 schools, millions of little juice and milk boxes between breakfast and lunch per year. So the reason why we were throwing them into the landfill is because lunch is fast, kids want to play, they drink a few sips, and they throw it away, they don't even know they don't need to take it, and they throw it in the trash. And it can't be recycled if it still has milk or juice in it. So the students learned about how could they empty out those milk and juice containers so that they could then be recycled and reduce the amount of trash that's going into the landfill. They also learned from talking to EDCO that it's cheaper to recycle than to throw away the trash. Of course, that's grown into now we have to do food waste and we need to compost and so on. And so this continues to grow from one little small seed of an idea. But again, kids are in charge. Remember in Soup Tank, I told you that National City is a coastal city on the San Diego Bay. So one of the things that's really important is that we protect our oceans. We protect that life underwater. And so we work with another nonprofit in the area that really cares about this called Ocean Connectors. And this is where learning gets outside of the walls of the classroom. There is some learning that happens. The facilitators from Ocean Connectors come in, they do lessons in the classrooms, reinforced by the teachers, but then they go out into the community. They go out into the estuary. They go out into the coastal areas, and they act as researchers. They act as environmentalists. They act as conservationists, and they contribute to the solutions. They identify the problems and contribute to the solutions. If we take another sector, the agriculture business sector for CTE, there are 7 pathways that can help get to this global goal, remember, of no hunger. And in National City, you would think, oh, there's really no need to study agriculture because we're not in the middle of the United States and we don't have farms. We're just 10 square miles of fast food restaurants. We only have 4 parks in the entire city. One of them is not in the city proper. And many of our families live in apartments and group housing. So there's not a lot of green space in National City. But that's what makes it even more important that we get our students to know about urban agriculture, to learn about their food systems so that they can be part, again, of identifying the issues and creating the solutions. So if global goal number 2 is to end hunger and achieve that food security, how do we do that in National School District? Well, we have put gardens at each one of our elementary schools. When we first implemented gardens, teachers didn't know what to do with them, right? This is where those partnerships come in really handy with our nonprofits and with our businesses. People with those expertise can come in and they can help us develop those gardens, teach our teachers, teach the kids how to use the gardens. This is the entry level to learning about that agriculture. It's not the ending point, it's the starting point. But kids love to get out of the classroom. Nobody wants to sit in a chair for 6 hours and listen to a teacher talk. They want to get out, they want to get their hands dirty. We strategically put our gardens near our playgrounds. So when kids are sliding down the slides, they slide right into the garden. And now kids are allowed to play in the gardens during their recess and lunch. But they also know that there are things that are growing in there and that they have to be careful because they may be part of another lesson. At this particular school on the left, the principal had grown some basil, and the basil grew out of control. But guess what was in the next box over? Any Italians in here? Tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. I walked on a school visit and I was eating my way through the garden and I said, oh my gosh, we need some string cheese. Let's get some string cheese and some toothpicks. And we started making some caprese salad sticks and the kids were eating them up. They loved them. And now you see kids and they're looking for what they can have for a snack in the garden, trying things that they may never have tried before, learning that I can do a 5-gallon grab and grow garden that was given to me at my school, and I can grow it on the steps outside on my balcony in my apartment. And I can have a caprese salad and introduce that to my family. And then we take the kids beyond the school into the community to learn the entire cycle from observing, planting, cultivating, harvesting. We have a partner called Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center in National City, and they actually teach our students how to go through that whole process and into the kitchen where they prepare something and they actually get to eat it, and that's probably the most fun that they get. Well, in addition to that, their parents come in and they learn how to look at their Mexican and Filipino traditional recipes. I have the Italian. My grandmother's cookies are made with shortening. I always say it's a secret ingredient, not very healthy, right? So there are things that we put in our traditional recipes that we've learned over the years aren't so good for us. So in Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center, the kitchenistas learn how to rethink their recipes in healthy ways. They come back into the schools, they teach other parents. So the parents are learning it, the kids are learning it, and it's coming back into the home. And it is changing the landscape of our community. So how do we build that? Again, I told you I was going to set the stage, and then Tim's going to drive it home. We're not going to talk to you about the standards for career-ready practice because, one, you're here because you're interested in CTE. So you're probably already aware of these, and if not, you're going to Google them from CTE, and you're going to see these are the skills behind those pathways, behind what we're trying to build in students so that they can be prepared for those careers. For us, when Tim and I worked together, we were already looking at these through something we called a learner profile, developed by Tim, but it makes so much sense. How do we develop students as a learner themselves? Remember, we need to be an exceptionally prepared learner. How do we become a good team member? And how do we become a good worker? So I'm going to turn it over to Tim. He's going to tell you how we build these skills in students, and then he's going to show you what happens when you do. Tim.
Thank you. I had to wrestle it from her the last presentation. So, you know, the learner profile is important, and so are the CTE skills. We believe that those CTE skills are critical for our kids and even for high school kids, not because we're trying to teach kids, here's exactly what you need to know to be a doctor, an engineer, whatever, but I think it's because there's such an engaging way to learn. And so when we think about the learner profile, I really break it down into a couple of different things. As LeAngela said, we have 3 different areas of skills that we look at. That worker profile, which is one we all know because that's what most schools work on, that's what most classrooms work on. But we also think that team member profile and that learner profile are equally important. But I want to show you something that I think is different about this learner profile than most learner profiles. And that is that we start with traits and work habits as the most important thing to learn. This is what we need to be. We use this as the critical thing, and then we use the knowledge and work skills as a way to learn those critical skills. That's backwards from most schools. Most schools, it's like, we got to teach math, and I hope they learn how to persevere through that. We teach perseverance, and we do it by learning math. So it's a big difference. It's not a subtle difference. It's a big difference in terms of looking at this from that lens. So if you look at those worker skills, there are things that we all need: persevering, responsibility, motivated, self-regulated, resourceful. These are things that are actually on our report card in Encinitas. These are what's on the front page of the report card, and then on the back side you'll see some of those subject matter things. The team member skills are just as important. You know, we don't live by ourselves in isolation. We need to be able to work with others. We need to be able to have these skills of cooperation, collaboration, and being altruistic, putting others' needs in front of our own. I think that's so important. And there are specific skills that go with that. And then the learner profile is the one that so often we forget about. And by the way, this is for adults too. This is a worker profile for us. This is a superintendent profile. This is a Tim Baird profile for me. And it's something we think the teachers should be emulating as well. So when we start to look at that learner profile, yes, optimism, appreciation, and curiosity is so important. And you do that through those knowledge and skills. So we believe mindfulness, and I use that word very deliberately. I think mindfulness is important, and my definition of that is awareness of what's going on around you, and then also this idea of contemplation or hyper-focus. We don't teach that very much anymore, where you're able to hyper-focus and really deep think about something. And with all of the way that things are going, with so much revolving around our learners today, it's a skill we have to teach, and we have to carve time out for it, for our teachers, for our principals, for our students. And then, of course, design and research skills. So often we say, go out, research that, go design this, go make that. We never taught them how to design. We haven't taught them the design principles. We haven't taught them how to research. There's more information than you could possibly imagine in the world. Researching is not looking up on Google. It's knowing what you're looking up and knowing it's the right thing. Knowing it's information that is not just the information that's valid and reliable, but that's been shared in a responsible way, and all of the skills that go with that. These are things our teachers need as well as our students. So we teach these things directly. And those are some of the most important learning skills that we will teach. So that's the learner profile. That sets the stage for some of these things. So that's a tool, but let's talk about some of those programs and practices we said we would. So one of my favorite ones is the Encinitas Union School District Film Guild. Film Guild is something that came about back in 2015. Our kids have had iPads. All kids have had iPads since they came out. So our kids are making lots of movies. Lots of movies. They weren't that good. Sorry, they weren't. You know, it's like, you know, Billy Bob the Rooster, 30 minutes of tracking around a rooster was not great. However, one school had Billy Bob the Rooster that was 2.5 minutes, that had great lighting, that had great sound quality, that had a story that was compelling, that was funny. The characters were well developed. We wanted to figure out why that school was putting out videos like that, and everybody else was doing the 30 minutes I'm following the rooster around with a camera. It came out to be that there was an enrichment teacher named Heather Holgren who had been hired by the school that knew how to make a movie. So we stole Heather at the district office, and we said, I need you to teach all of our students how to make a movie. I need you to teach our teachers how to make a movie. So she created Film Guild. Just like adults, if you need to know how to do something, you go to experts. And we brought experts in. We bring in camera people, we bring in these guys, we bring in light people, we bring in sound engineers, we bring in people that tell how to write a story that's compelling, and we teach them how to put this together. Film Guild was optional. Students could sign up for it. These were our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Started off small, you know, 25, 50 kids or so. Volunteer, they came after school, and then it just blew. up. It got so, kids were excited about it, and they started learning, and as soon as they got enough kids, we would then bring in Final Cut Pro and some of the higher-end editing tools. We brought in better lighting. We brought in kits that they could take it on the road, and suddenly now we're pushing in more expertise, more equipment, more whatever. Consequently, since that time, our students, you know, just dominate. They win about 30% of the film awards at the local Ivy thing. They're not better filmmakers, they just know more. They've been taught, they know how to do it right. They've won the California Film Media Festival for their age group, I think every year since 2015. They're good because they know how to do it right. And we created a guild, they're members of the guild. They're very proud of that. And it continues to grow. I think there's 300 or 400 kids in the guild right now. So that's just one example of how you make it real. Authentic learning matters. Here's another one, and I'm going to have the kids tell you what this is all about, but every school district has to do a stormwater plan. You usually hire somebody to come in. This consultant will come in, they'll put your stormwater plan together, and then they will charge you money, they'll give you a report that sits on a shelf, yada, yada, yada. Fifth graders can do that. Let me show you.
SWIP stands for Storm, Water, Pollution, Prevention, Plan.
SWIP Internship is a year-long program that trains students to study stormwater pollution on their school campus to create solutions to improve water quality.
As SWIP interns, we study the school's storm drain system and sometimes even get a chance to clean out clogged drains.
We take field trips to view our local watershed and visit water testing facilities.
When it rains, we collect samples and test them for pollutants so we can understand which drain areas are causing problems.
But in this internship, we don't just study the problem, we also get to build solutions. Some of our ideas are easy and we can do them right away. Some require additional funding, like the grant we received from the California State Water Board to build 6 water quality projects.
At the end of the school year, the SWIP interns present their findings and recommendations to the school board.
But a key part of the SWIP internship program is sharing our message beyond our school and the local community. Throughout the year, interns present to industry associations, educational organizations, and municipal water boards.
The SWIP internship program is fostering a new generation of young environmental leaders who are raising awareness and taking action to reduce pollution in our local waterways.
So that's a program that exists at all 9 of our campuses, but it didn't end there. And by the way, these kids know their stuff. They can tell you about every BMP, best management practice in environmental engineering related to stormwater. They can do it through a chart, they can do a presentation. They speak at some of the best conferences out there. And as I tell everyone, I will never speak at the same time because they always outdraw me and they outtalk me. So I'm in the audience when they're talking. But it's just a great program, and it's expanded beyond our borders. So, Leangela?
Yeah, I was just going to add that my school district also was interested in doing this. I mean, why pay a consultant $30,000 when the kids can do it for free? You pay $30,000 for somebody to come in and do the program, and then all of the skills that the kids get to develop working alongside those professionals. And so we were able to do that, and now the Port of San Diego is actually going to pay for it because we're actually a coastal city with the Navy and industry right on our water line, and they have a vested interest in keeping those waters clean. So they're paying to hire our kids to do the SWIP in National City. So usually, I don't know by hour, but it's a year-long process, and the kids usually give up 2 lunches per week, and then there's a classroom time. So it's probably 3 hours a week over the course of a school year of maybe 40 of the school. Like, it starts pretty early, 30 to 40 weeks.
And we've done it in different ways. What we were finding from an equity lens was that initially kids were coming after school and during lunch and giving up personal time, and not all of our kids were able to do that. So we pushed it more into the classroom. So we now have models that are classroom-based. just so that everybody gets to experience it. Not every grade level, but, and then we have shorter and longer versions of what the SWIP program looks like. So it can fit any size, really.
And this is why we need CTE at elementary, so that the state can recognize these as standards that need to be taught, so they can be built into our curriculum and into our standards, so that we can actually take our class time and not compete with the very limited time that our teachers have.
But I would argue they're learning all of those skills we're supposed to be teaching them while they're in SWIP.
If you check the learner profile. Okay, now this is where it gets fun, guys. All right, here we go.
So let me move on, because I want to talk about Farm Lab. Farm Lab's another area that we created in Encinitas. It's a 10-acre site. Most people know it because we grow organic food there that we put into our food service program, which is amazing. It's wonderful. That's not what I'm here to talk about. Farm Lab is actually a research and design center for student learners and teachers. And so we look at this as a place where kids can come and do really deep thinking around design and research. We happen to have wonderful partners in the area. We're across the street from a botanic garden, from a research center, so it's got lots of things that we were gifted with by the location. But we also have some talented teachers there working with kids. And I'm going to have the students tell you this. This is one of those award-winning movies that was made by 5th graders from La Costa Heights, I think it was, that created this movie.
I was principal at La Costa Heights.
Yes. And so have the kids tell you about Farm Lab.
This is past me, but still my school.
And you're going to make, you're going to design. So a big word for make is design, and engineer is another word for make.
Going across the street to the Coastal Roots Farm.
So they are given a choice from 8 different items, such as cheesecloth, coffee filters, sand, gravel, charcoal, and they can choose 4 to make their layers to pour dirty water through to see how clear it'll come out.
So we're gonna go sand, fabric, coffee filter, then cheesecloth.
So first we put like charcoal and sand and gravel.
And that did not turn out.
Yeah, it did not turn out well. It was very dark. So now we're writing down our progress, and then we're going to think of a new idea and start over again.
Clean water. What water do we clean? Where does it come from? Sewage. Goes underground into pipes and it comes here. And we treat that water, and then what do we do with it? Clean it, we filter it, we disinfect it, reuse as much of it as we can.
We come back to the farm and we learn about different kind of pumping systems.
Nailed it!
The ideas are limitless. You're going to make a playground type structure that will pump and filter water to the chicken coop.
It's just a really good experience, and it's really fun to do with other people.
And today the engineering process in action has been fantastic, and you can see the enthusiastic students, their minds working together.
So it is the only program in the United States of America that feeds into the lunch program. And so that's so unique to be a school district of the 50 United States that's doing something so forward-thinking. To peer evaluate, you're going to come to a project and you're going to look at it. You're going to read the labels. You're going to see how it works. Then you're going to read their poster. Now I'm going to pull off that warm sticky, and I'm going to stick their warm sticky on their peer evaluation sheet.
We're really excited moving forward because this for us was our into with our students, really focusing on the scientific process and the engineering process. And so as we go back into the classroom and focus on our NGSS standards, that the kids are going to have that deep level of understanding how we're impacting the environment and how we can help make a difference to be a change agent.
So that's just one example of the many projects they do at Farm Lab. You know, my hope is that they take that model then, and then next we were talking about building the prototype and actually building a working prototype that took the water to the chicken coop, because you want to get as authentic as possible in that learning. Here are 6th grade students in their week-long entrepreneur unit. They create a salad dressing company. They source ingredients from the farm. They actually make the salad dressing. They have secret ingredients and all of the other stuff as a top chef kind of thing. And then they bottle it. They put together a marketing plan. They do a presentation with logos and everything else. And then the winning salad dressing is showcased at the YMCA Gala Dinner. So again, you want an authentic audience as much as possible for these kind of things. And just one of the many projects that kids do there. Even younger kids are there. These are little 1st graders, I believe. They were working on a way to keep pests out of the food. We don't use pesticides in our district, so you got to come up with clever ways to do that. Here are what some of them look like. I want to just showcase this little girl on the left, though. She was bringing hers up there that was supposed to shake and make some noise, and she dropped it on the way, and it exploded, and then everybody's like, oh, and she goes, no, that would have scared away all the pests. I win. So, you know, you got to be confident in your design. So here is, we're going to end with this challenge, which is one I put out to students. We brought in 2 repurposed portables, and I said, you know what, we got a bunch of adults talking about what they want in those rooms. Let's get some kids in there. So we put that challenge out there. We had some 4th and 5th graders from Flora Vista that took us up on the challenge about how do we decorate that. And then they got a real budget, and we turned them loose. So here were the spaces, just so you can see. And they had to do their work. So what does a designer do? They had to learn how to design, so they had to meet with the clients. They interviewed experts. We put them on Zoom calls with people back in Washington, D.C. that were expert classroom designers, that were space designers that really did this work. They had to get out and measure and make sure it was right. I told them, you guys are off by an inch or 2, and none of your stuff's going to fit. And you're going to blow your budget. So it has to be right. And then they did their research, they did their design. This had a lot of teacher support, a lot of support from experts that were helping them. And here's what they created. And again, I want to end with student voice because first I want you to listen to one young lady talking about their plan, and it's pretty detailed. But listen for some of the things she's talking about, what they used to get there.
CAR formed to do research, making sure our resources were credible, accurate, and reliable. From there, we chose certain jobs, such as kitchen design, indoor storage, outdoor furniture, that we were passionate about designing and interested in researching. With further research, we developed budgets and thorough plans with measurements that match the blueprints. You can find all the links to the items we chose through our Excel spreadsheet, as well as the keynotes that match the blueprints, so you know where we want to place our items. We gave each room a theme to help in the development of the space. The Rosemary Room is a logical and engineering, high technology room. The Deal Room is our artistic development room, and the deck is designed to conserve water and be an outdoor learning and presentation space. I will start the presentation with discussing the design for the kitchen in the Deal or artistic room.
So you heard blueprints, you heard budgets, you heard linked Excel spreadsheets. Those are not typical 5th grade things that we teach. And they learned them because they needed to use those tools to get the project done right. Here's my favorite video, though, and this is not one that we asked for. The teacher, at the end of it, she just pulled out her phone and walked around and asked kids, what did you learn? 1 minute. This is what you want to hear kids say they learned.
I learned how to do a budget. I really didn't know what it was before. Well, I've heard about it, but yeah.
I learned that research is not just searching something up and finding your answers in the first article. It takes time and effort.
Such a big project can take a while with just one person. And teamwork is more important.
The script was hard to write because there were a lot of prices that weren't correct, and it was a lot of work, and we needed to make everyone say something that really counted, and there were dimensions and keynotes and everything we needed to do, which was really hard.
Yeah.
I learned that, designing classrooms, I thought it would be super easy and super quick, but it actually takes a while, and you have to go through a lot of research and so many different steps to get there. I learned
while doing this project that even if you don't get something the first time, you can just keep trying and you'll eventually get it and become the best person that you can be personally.
Questions, but to be open to ask questions because questions lead to success.
I learned that all ideas are good ideas, and you just have to really go deeper into it to see if it's good or if you want something else.
I learned that you can't just go to the teacher and say, I want this, you have to know why. That there are a lot of different websites that you can get things off. Like I thought Amazon, that's where you get everything, but then I realized there were a bunch of other places where there were really good furniture and even better than Amazon and really good prices and things like that.
I learned that it's not just adults who can design things and make really cool things. Kids can do it too.
And that's a perfect ending because kids can do anything. The limitation to student work is adults. It really is. I mean, it's if we give them the time, the space, we teach them what they need to know to do it, they can deliver. And when you listen to that, I hope you were listening for those world-ready traits and skills because I heard perseverance, I heard curiosity, I heard altruism and collaboration, and that's what you want to hear. So, yeah. Yeah, So
I still can't do Excel.
Yeah. These are 4th and 5th graders. Yeah, this was Flora Vista. These kids now, unfortunately, the pandemic took something out of our video. So we have other videos, but kids all look like they're robbing a bank. So these are ones where you can see the kids. It's a little cuter. But this was and we just threw it out there. I just said, is there a school out there that would like to take on this challenge? So again, this is a little bit cherry picked because obviously a teacher that's willing to do this is also a teacher that has some of these skills and traits. But it wasn't just one school that responded. And so more and more I want every classroom to say, yeah, we want that challenge, and I'm going to teach math through that, and I'm going to teach, all of these other things through that as well. So we are kind of near the end of our time. If there are questions, I want to not hold you up from lunch, but it's 12:46, so we're kind of right there.
Did they say what time in your last session lunch was going to be?
I think it's just when we finished here, and we were supposed to go about 45 minutes or so. So I think we're right on time. Are there any questions you might have for LeAngela or myself? Yes. You want to take the first stab, or you want me to?
I can see he has an answer, so that's why I paused. But I'll go first, and then I'll let you fill in the blanks. I think the roadblocks are always time. Whenever I do a presentation, I say, everybody raise your hand if you got lots of time. Like, no hands go up, right? Because nobody has enough time. And then you see a great project, you're like, oh my gosh, where am I going to fit that in? So it's really helping people to weed the garden, take things off their plate that they don't need to be doing, and then where does this fit in to what you're doing? So that's one roadblock. I think another roadblock is not really money. You would think money would be a roadblock, but it's not really money. It's time, and then developing expertise. And when you talk about doing stormwater pollution prevention plan, and you bring that to a teacher, and you're like, would you like to teach this year? The answer is usually, sure, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So bringing in an expert that comes into the school to work alongside the teachers that can just, if they just think of the kids as mini adults, the teacher does the rest. The teacher is the one that can bring the kids and organize them, and then the expert teaches the kids the content, and then it kind of snowballs from there. And I think taking a risk and trying, if you're willing to do that, you're going to get things like this, month after month, year after year, program after program.
And I'll just augment that. That's a great answer. And part of it is mindset, is that we are so attuned to school looks like this. You sit in that desk there and you write on something and you answer questions that I give you, and it's about the teacher driving everything. And we gotta stop that nonsense because there's too much information for us to teach every fact there is to know. We've got to get kids in authentic learning situations, and if they are going to learn, they're going to have to engage with the learning. These kids engaged with that learning. I'm sure they didn't learn something that was supposed to be on a test somewhere, but they learned, and they learned some really important stuff. We've got to change the mindset of teachers that learning happens in a desk, in a classroom, on a worksheet, and we got to get them outside of the classroom. If we do nothing else than that, we've made a huge increase in what we're doing. The other thing is, how can we help? So Leangela said part of it, which is to get experts in. But I also think, and sometimes we just ask for an authentic audience. The teacher is often the audience for everything that a child produces, or more painfully, it's the other kids in the class. So we're all going to read everybody's story, and you're going to sit there. That's painful. But if you have adults that come in, and they're going to hear your presentation, that changes things. So sometimes just being available to be an authentic audience or to come in, obviously, you know, if you are sponsoring something or if you have expertise in something and can share, that's always great. But being an authentic audience is huge. So.
Okay, I have one more idea.
Yeah.
Bring a teacher to work day.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, it's lunchtime. Any final? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you
being
taking
here.
your time today. Thank you.